Right, hello. We had a wee gander at the nouns in the last video. Um, Nouns, they're an open class of words. You can get thousands and thousands of them. So I'll leave you to explore that, build up your vocabulary with them. But what we're going to look at in this video is the words that attach themselves to nouns or that stand in for nouns, that behave as nouns. So we're going to look at the determiners first. That's words like a. So you wouldn't say something like coo walked down the road. You'd say a coo walked down the road. 3 coos walked down the road. The coo walked down the road. They coos walked down the road. That kind of thing. So that's the determiners. We're going to have a look at them. Then we're going to have a look at the pronouns, and they're the words that stand in for nouns. So I wouldn't say to you, Michael, say to you, let's learn about Scots, right? I would say, I say to you, let's talk about Scots language here, our language. So they stand in for nouns, and we're going to have a look at them. The pronouns, there's a load of them. And then we'll finish off by looking at some adjectives, and they're words that tell you more about the noun. So a big dog, a wee moose, that kind of thing. So they attach to the noun and they tell you more about it. So that's what we're going to have a wee look at today. These ones, they're the kind of words that won't really mean anything standing by themselves. Like that doesn't mean anything. They doesn't really mean anything as a sentence by itself, right? So they all help us find out more about a noun. So a noun would be a name for something or a class of things. So the big coo. So we can tell what of all the coos we're talking about. We're talking about the big coo, that kind of thing. So that's what we're going to look at here. They're a wee bit footery, but what I'd say is read through, download the Honout and read through it and try and get it fixed in your head. These are the kind of words that when folk are coming to write Scots, they tend to go along with the standard English versions, and that can make your writing, if you're being creative, or the way you talk, sound a bit kind of off. It doesn't. Sometimes it can sound a bit off in terms of how we actually talk. And what we're looking at here again is descriptive grammar. We're not looking at prescriptive grammar. So I'm not telling them that this is the way you should talk. What I'm saying is this is the way folk that talk Scots tend to talk. So we'll have a gander through these. So the determiners and the pronouns are what's known as a shut class or a closed class group of words. A shut class of words is a group of words that's resistant to getting new words added to it. It doesn't mean you can't add them, but it's kind of resistant to it. Some folk, under the misapprehension, put for the idea that they're shut and no more words can enter this. They can, but they're more resistant. And what that means is we tend not to think about them. And folk that are trying to correct their language into standard English, or Scots standard English, will not really think about these, and they'll use them anyway. So they'll use these anyway. So they're the kind of engine of Scots. So we'll start off with the determiners. And as I said, a determiner attaches to a noun, and some nouns require a determiner in sentences. You'll get that. So we'll go for it here. So what have I got here? A determiner, a word that's used along with a noun for to give me information about the noun, to tell you what one you're talking about in particular, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put them into 3 classes: pre-determiners, central determiners, and post-determiners. And all that is it's telling you the order that these words come in. So it'd be all the men. So that would be a pre-determiner, a central determiner. and then you've got post-determiners after that. So we'll see that as we go through how you can stack these up afore you hit on your noun. So afore that, I'll just go through this. We've got countable nouns and mass nouns. And these, the determiners behave a bit different depending whether it's a countable noun or a mass noun. A countable noun is just something you can count. So 1 dug, 3 coos, 10 fellas. I had a couple of thoughts about that. I've got 3 pencils. Polis is an interesting one. That's a countable noun in Scots. So you can say there's a polis, there are 3 polis. So you can count polis like that. Stain, a stain. I've got hit with a stain. There's the stain that hit me there. Books, you can count books. I've got 300 books. I've got hundreds of books at the back of here. Then you've got the mass nouns, and these you tend to can't know to count. So let's say a good example would be something like mud, sturdy mud, right? You can't say there's 3 mud on the ground, right? There are 100 mud. You could say there's hundreds of mud, but you can't say there are 100 mud. There are 20 mud, right? So they'll not take that. It would just be that mud. A plate of soup. So you say geese 3 soups, right? But you would mean 3 plate of soups. But if you're talking about this soup is called, you wouldn't say 3 soup is called, right? So water soup, glabber, glower, kai. For me, in my dialect, kai is a mass noun, so it'd be the kai. I wouldn't really say 1 or 3 kai. Porridge, your porridge, got that. The grass, out the back, or girths in some dialects. You wouldn't say 3 grass is green, it'd be the grass is green. 8s, that looks like it's countable because it ends in an S, so you might get porridge with your 8s. But you wouldn't say 3 8s. You would need to say like 3 kernels at 8s or something like that. Then fish, you get fish is a countable noun. 1 fish, 2 fish. Say 3 fishies if that's better the way you speak. But you talk about them as a mass, as a full group. Look at the fish that way, So that's how you've got countable nouns and mass nouns, and they behave a wee bit different with the determiners. See, so we'll start off with these ones, the predeterminers. So that's baith, or a if you're in the northeast, and sick or sitch if you say that, and that's got another form, sickna, which is a contraction of sitch, kinda. So you would say something like baith the men walked up the road, or both men walked up the road. It doesn't need to take a central determiner. Or woman was singing, or the woman was singing, or all women were singing. Sickna man would be, so let's think for that. So sickna man would be glad to learn Scots. Sickna woman would enjoy learning more about our language, that kind of thing. And then the other ones, if you're using a multiplier or a divider, so you would say half the water, half the wains here, like sweeties. A fourth, a fought, like a fought the coos have had calves this year. 4 times the folk showed up that I expected. So these go afore any of these other central determiners. So you'll hear that I said in that a and that. So they come first. The Asians. Now some of them like baith is a post determiner. I know. So we'll see that in a wee bit. But so you can take baith the men in Scots. Baith the men. Right, so it's not got of in there, so it's just baith the men. It can exist plainly like that. So the articles, as we see here, we've got the ones that apply to count nouns and the ones that apply to mass nouns. So that would be a apple, a fish, the coos, so you would use that. So that's if you're talking definitely about something. A means just any one of them. So a coup, it could be any coup you're talking about there. The coup would be that particular one. So you would have that for the count nouns. The three coups, something like that. And then for mass nouns, well, I guess I'll say it for this. In English, you get an when a noun starts with a vowel. But in Scots, often you'll just get the bare a with the end, so it'd be a able. That kind of form, and you'll find that way just about every word that starts with an a example, right? There's a good example, example there. And then mass nouns will only take the indefinite form, so you wouldn't say a mud, right? It would be the mud, and that's the form we would use there. If your language doesn't have the th at the start, and this goes back all through the literature, generally it's just spelled with a plain e. So I'm going up the stair. I'd say that I'm going up the stair. So I don't use the th, and that just gets spelled with a plain e. Sometimes you'll see it spelled with a plain I, but that's usually a contraction of in. But if you're just saying up the stair, that kind of form, you just use the plain e. Yeah. So more central determiners. You've got these ones, which are the indicative determiners, right? So if you're talking about something, I've got my pens here, right? Need pencils to on, but pens, right? So if you're talking about something, that would be this pen. And again, that's got the th for this lot can be dropped, and we see it all the way through the literature spelled without the th. This pen, I'll just talk about the singular ones here. So it'd be this pen. That's a thin reach, something that I can touch or hold. Something that's outside your reach, something maybe in your table. It'd be that pen or that pen over there. So I'd say, I want to use that pen. And then if something is away, something that's far away that you probably can't see it and you just need to hold it in your mind, you'd say, thon pen. Mind thon pen that my daggy does, right? So thon, yon, it exists in that form and exists in on as well. Now, in dialects in the north of Scotland, you tend to use the singular form here for the plural. So I'd say that's 3 pens, right? That's 3 pens here. That's 3 pens. So you would use it in that form. But in the rest of Scotland, there's the plural forms that comes in. So we've got these. So the first one here, there or that's a kind of older form. You only really hear folks saying that, but that would be this pen, their pens. That's where you would use it. Most of the time now, folk will say these, so it'd be these pens, or these pens, again, that drops the th, all of them. Now the next one, if you're talking about something over there that you can see, it'd be that pen, and it would be they pens. So you see this is spelled THAE, and it's different for the THEY, the pronoun form. This is they pens, so it means those in English. Want to geese they pens over, geese they pens over. So that's used in Scots. If you want to use it, and this is more in the pronoun form that we'll see in a wee bit, but you'll tend to say them if you're using it emphatically. So if you say geese they pens and somebody gives you the wrong ones, you would say no, them, that kind of form there. So that's the 2 versions of that. And then again, if it's plural, it'd be thon coups, so that doesn't change. If it's one coup, thon coup, or thon coups, thon dogs, right? So that's your indicative determiners. These always come afore a noun because they're determiners, right? So when you're using them by themselves, they're pronouns, and we'll look at that later on here. But this pen, these pens, they pens, if it's a determiner, you've got a noun following it, a noun following it. Then we've got the possessive determiners, and these mean that it belongs to somebody, right? So this would be my pen, your pen, or your pen, if you want to be emphatic with that. If you want to say, he's a pen, no, your pen, the one that somebody's using, rather than any pen that exists. And then you've got the thy form, or die, and that exists in some dialects. Die would be the plural of that. Then we've got the third person neutral human, right? So that's, you would say, so that's there. And you would tend to say that, so if you weren't going to say whether it was male or female, so like a doctor, the doctor gave me their pen, right? So that's a, it's no saying the doctor gave me her pen, or the doctor gave me his pen, his pen, the doctor gave me their pen. And then, so that's the female and male, sorry, the feminine and masculine forms. And then you've got the neutral non-human. So the dog gave me his bone. And you've got the couple of forms here, hit, which is the older form, but a lot of folks use that in their own Scots dialects, or its, without the H at the start. Some folk use the hit form emphatically. So if you said, he's the plate, it could be any plate that's lying out there, but if it's a dog's plate, it would be no, he's his plate. So folk would use it emphatically, and the H would come in there. So that's the singular ones for these. Now we've got the plural unes. So the plural unes is when you're talking about more than one, something that belongs to more than one person, right, or more than one folk. So you've got a couple of forms here. You've got were and our. Were is the unemphatic form. So if you were going to dinner, right, and we went to a restaurant, and I said to yourself, this is our table, you'd use it in that form, this is our table. That's where taxi arrived, that kind of thing. But if somebody was at our table, or somebody tried to jump a taxi, we would say to them, no, this is our table, or this is our taxi. So that's the emphatic form there. So you're drawing attention to that word within the sentence, you're making it pop out. So you would get that form. Plural form, your. So that's your fitba team. So if I'm talking to a group of folk, I would say that's your fitba team. That's your fitba team in the emphatic form, and die as well can exist in there in some dialects. So for all the third person ones, you'd say their. So that's their table. It's no yours, it's theirs, right? So that's how you would use that. So that's the possessive determiners. Just a couple of these ones here. You've got, you can use the possessive S, so apostrophe S. So you'd say that's Jeannie's cat's, right? That's Jeannie's cat there. So Jeannie apostrophe S is working as a possessive determiner here, right? So cat is the main noun, and Jeannie's is determining whose cat it is, it belongs to. Then you can have that in phrases. So like, that's the woman that lives down the roads, lassie, right? And in English, that would be a wee bit different. It would be something like, that's the woman's girl who lives down the road, right? Something like that. But that's the woman that lives down the roads, lassie. So you can apply this possessive determiner to full phrases. So that's the woman that lives down the road, apostrophe S. That full thing is working as a possessive determiner there. So that's what's going on there. Just listen to how you actually use these. The numbers are central determiners, 8, 2, 3, 4. And the ordinal numbers that tack a T at the end in Scots. So the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, that kind of thing. So you could say the second boy, the third coup. So these come in as central determiners in that order. So we'll go into the post determiners, and these give you a wee bit more kind of information about how many folk there is, or how many or how much. So for count nouns, you have this group, mass nouns, you have this group, and you can use this group for all of them, right? So you can say, what apple do you want? I'll have either apple, either will do us, either apple will do me. Do you want a bit of fruit? I don't like they ones, I'll have another bit of fruit, another fruit. Each and every kind of more under the influence of Stoner English. The older Scots would be ilka, and that could mean each or every, roughly. You don't really hear that ilka get used in spoken language all that much, or at all. So folk will say each. So each coo has got a tag around its neck or a bell around its neck. Every woman gets £100 at the end of the week, right? That kind of thing. Neither, so, or neither, or neither. I would say neither or neither would be more the kind of Scottish traditional thing. Neither is more like kind of imitation of the accent of Stoner English. So neither man wanted to go home for the party, right? And then you've got both. Now in English this doesn't really work as a post determiner, but in Scots it does. So you could say the both men went down the road, right? In English you would tend to want to say both of the men went down the road, but you can say the both of them went down the road in Scots. So that's a central determiner, that both. And you can also say, so both also exists as a predeterminer, so you can say both the men went down the road. Whereas in English it would just be both men went down the road. So you can say both the men or the both men went down the road, or the both women went up the road, or any kind of formation like that. And you get few and fewer for the count nouns, and sometimes these get mixed up with less. So you would say few Waynes didn't like sweeties, right? Fewer Waynes didn't like, fewer Bairns didn't like toys, right? Then you've got mony, which I would say many. That would be my many folk was here last night, that kind of thing. That sounds more like how many folk. So many folk would enjoy learning about their own language, right? So that's many folk. Then we've got several and severals. Severals is pretty rare as a determiner. So you'd have like several dogs showed up at the school playground. Severals dogs, you will occasionally hear that, but most of the time you'll hear that as a pronoun, and we'll see that in a wee. So then you've got the mass nouns, and there's just a couple of these. So that would be less water, please. Little water is in the glass. This tends to be a kind of Stoner English usage. I very rarely hear that. Much, there was much carry on last night, a wee bit of stramash. Muckle tends to be in more dialects, so there was muckle carry on last night, and there was a bit of stramash. So muckle carry on would get used there. And then these ones are used for both, and this first one nay, so you can see the difference between a pronoun and a determiner here, right? So if you say there are nae coos in the field, right? That's nae coos. So we've got a noun coming after that, so you say nae. If I said to you, how many coos are in the field? As a pronoun, you would say nain, right? So nain would be the form you would use for that. It's the same with a and ain. So you would say a coos in the field. How many coos is in the field? Ain coo is in the field. Or one coo or yin coo, right? So nae as the determiner form, nain as the pronoun form. And we'll see that when we look at the pronouns. Only money on you? It's a good question, that, Ian. Some women like to sing. And you've got O or A in the northeast, the double A spelling. All people sleep at some point, right? All folk sleep. And youth people talk Scots that it's worth learning about it, right? Put that one in. Other folk didn't talk Scots. We did, that kind of thing. Mayor and Maist. So you get Mayor Coos has got out the field today. Maist folk didn't like loss in money, right? Maist folk didn't like loss in money. So that's the post determiners. And you can bring them all together. So you can have both the men went up the road, all the few men went up the road. Would be a formation you could have with that in Scots. So you can have a predeterminer, a central determiner, a post determiner. That's the order that they come in. And then there's this last couple, and these are a wee bit footery if they're not part of your language. So this doesn't exist in standard English. This is a mass noun post determiner, and this is telling you, the mass noun is telling you how much a mass noun there is, right? So you can say they're a bit mud, they're a drap milk, they're a sliced bread. Now notice that they don't have O in between there. There isn't. They're a bit of mud, they're a drap of milk. They go straight onto the noun. There isn't an of in there as there is in English. So there's a difference between a bit of mud, a bit of mud, a bit of mud, and a bit mud. So when you're saying a bit mud, you're just talking about how much there is. A bit of mud, you're talking about a portion, right? A bit, yeah. So you've got these things, a bit mud, a drap, water, a sliced bread, a mortal cheese, a handful. There's a handful fid in there. We'll be all right for eating that. That's fine. There's a wheen totties in there. There's a wheen totties, so we've got more than enough that we'll ever bother about. Pickle, a wee drap. There a pickle porridge left in the bowl. We'll need to get some at the shop. Then you've got a hate and a tate. There a wee hate milk, or there a wee tate milk left. We'll need to go to the shops and get more. So that's just telling you the amount or something. And then you've got this productive form, which will be full or fey, words that end full or fey. So that's a honfey or a honful. So there are honfey lentils left. A gowpen full, that's a pair of hons. You could say there's either a gowpen full eights left in that sack. But you can use that for any container, and it contains it. So you can say there's a cupful of coffee left, coffee beans, maybe something like that. So you can use that to form any words. You could say there are computer full data in there, right? So you can use anything that contains it. You can use that. As I said, it's not part of everybody's speech, but myself is I. So you'll say this for mass nouns of things. Then if you're asking a question with a noun in it, you've got these interrogative determiners, right? So that would be, was pens this, right? Was pens is these, right? And that kind of thing. Then you've got what, so what car is yours, right? And in English that might be which. And the older Scots form of which is whilk, but we tend to use wit for everything now. So what motor's yours? What trolley are we taking into the supermarket? Get that form and all. So whilk, you'll see that in older forms, written forms, but generally wit is what gets used And these are for forming questions where there's a noun following it. So these are all the ones that are there. We'll see in the other word classes the mere question words as we go for it through this. And then we've got this one. So let's Sickna woman would have her breakfast at lunchtime, right? Something like that. So Whitna, you would say, Whitna woman would have her breakfast at lunchtime. Sickna woman would have her breakfast at lunchtime. So it's what kind of, Whitna, it becomes that form. So that's what the determiners. So they all group together. A lot of nouns can't exist without them. You wouldn't say coo ate the grass. It'd be a coo ate the grass, the coos, both coos ate the grass, something like that. So some of them require it. Some of them will not, but most of the time when we're talking, we use all these words to give you more information about the noun that we're using, the thing, the object that we're looking at or thinking about. These things with names. So that's how we use them, the determiners. So if you get these right when you're, just listen to how you use them, right? Just keep a log out and say, do I use that? Try and hear them, because you can't really point at these individual words, bit existing by itself. You can't really point at that. It would need to be a bit or something. They're a wee bit footery, but keep your legs open for that. So after this, what we're going to do is we're going to go on and look at the pronouns. So a pronoun is a word that stands in for a noun or a noun phrase. So the man that I was talking to the other day is a phrase, and you could say, see the man that I was talking to the other day, he says it's going to be a wee bit smur tomorrow, right? Or it would be Michael, and you wouldn't say, Michael say to you. We're going to look at pronouns here, right? So you replace it, it would be, I'll say to you. We're going to look at pronouns today. So here we go. We'll go through the pronouns. So we've got the personal pronouns here, and these come in a couple of forms. You've got the subject form and the object form. So the subject is the person or thing that's doing something, and the object is the person or thing that something has been done to, or something that's happened, right? So we'll go through these, and they can be quite different for standard English. So we've got a, so I talk to yous, ye, you talk back to me, and then again that's got the emphatic form, you talk back to us, and then we've got the do form or do form that you get in Shetlandic. Let's see, do talks back to us, that kind of thing. Then the third person, if you're talking about somebody else that isn't there, she or show for feminine, he for the masculine, they for the third person neutral human. So I went to the doctor, what did they say? Then it or hit for the third person neutral. I seen the dog, what was hit like, that kind of thing. What like was hit. So that's, you're not repeating the phrase, the dog. What like was the dog. So that's a standing in for that now. Yeah. Then the plural, when you're talking about more than one. We, so we have a blether. It's in some dialects. Then you've got a plural form in Scots for this. So how are yous? Or yous are going down the road. So that's in the subject form. Yous are going down the road. Who's going down the road? Yous are going down the road. So that's the emphatic form, if you're trying to draw attention to that. But yous are going down the road. And then for the third person, it's they. and this is different for the indicative pronoun and the indicative determiner, which is THAE, right? So you get they. So they said to me it was time to go into the next set of words, that kind of thing. So now we've got these units. These are intensive, and this doesn't exist in standard English. Using this as a subject word. So in English, it's only used as an object word here, and we'll see that in a wee second. But I'll just go through these now. And these words take the cell ending. So you're talking about your cell, or my cell, if I'm talking about my cell, your cell, her cell. Then it's his cell. It's no himself in English. His cell. And then for the third person, it's their cell. It's not themselves. So their cells is fine here. Then it's his cell or its cell. For the third person, or the third person neutral, right? And how we're using these intensively, right, means they take the subject form. So who's going to do the dishes? My cell will do the dishes, right? And like, oh, her cell was in the other day and was talking to us. Oh, his cell came down the stair last night. First I've seen him in ages. Oh, their cell said to us that we should do this, right? So their cell, his cell. And then we've got the plural form. So we're cells and our cells. So who's going to sort out the back garden? Ourselves will clean the garden. Who's going to do it? Ourselves, we'll do it, right? So you can use it in that subject form. Yourselves, and then their cells for the plural. So their cells came down the other day and taken away the rubbish for the back, or the brog for the back garden. For that. So that's when you're using it as a subject, and it's maybe a wee bit easier when we look at the reflexive here. Just a wee note, if you're saying it in Scots and in a lot of Englishes, you'll say, me and Susie's going down the road, right? Me and James went to the play the other night, right? It's no James and I went to the play the other night, but me and James. So it always takes this object form when you're using it in the subject, right here. So that's a wee footery one there. I'm sure you're familiar with that. Folk I correct people on that. So then you've got the object. So I gave the money to me, to you, to you. So this is the word that comes after the verb. So I talked to you. So we've got me for ourselves, or is. So I would say, want to give that to us. So is, which sounds a bit like us, but it's a different vowel. As, us, is the plural form. And in some dialects, whiz is the plural version of us, and who, no. So we've got me or is, and then us in plural. And just to look at that in spelling, you would want to say want to gize it, want to gize it, and then want to gize it, right? Want to gize it. And to me, the gize and gize sound different, right? They're contracted slightly differently. So that would be us, and that would be me. Want to give that to me. So me would tend to be the emphatic form, as gets used unemphatically. Then ye or d. So in Shetlandic, you get the d form. The plural of that is yous or yous. So I'm going to talk to yous. I'm going to talk to you, which would be one person. I'm going to talk to yous, would be a group of yous. I'm going to talk to her. I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to talk to him. And then the singular, so that's like, I'm going to the doctors tomorrow. I'm going to talk to them, right? So that would be an individual, one person, a singular form there. I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to talk to the dog. And then the plural of that is them. And these reflexive ones, you're maybe more used to this for starting English. So, I think well of myself. You think well of yourself. She thinks well of herself. He thinks well of himself. They think well of their self. It thinks well of itself. Then we'll do it ourselves. No, we'll do it ourselves, right? Ourselves, yourselves, and their selves for the plural form for all them. So that's the personal pronouns. Hopefully they are relatively straightforward. What I'm going to do is have a wee look at how the language is used. I've never seen this kind of used, wrote down. But this is a possessive pronouns. So if you're talking about something that belongs to you or somebody else or an animal or something like that, both the subject and object uses the same form. So mine's is Scots with an S on the end of that. So if we're talking about pens, mine's isn't working, right? There's no ink in it. Mine's isn't working. Then plural, ours isn't working. Ours isn't working. Then the pen, how's your pen going? Oh, yours isn't working. Yours isn't working. Dine isn't working. Tell older folk Shetland say dine for that. Hers isn't writing. His isn't writing. Or theirs isn't writing. Its isn't writing. And then the plural form, theirs. So that's maybe straightforward, that one. Then we get these intensive and reflexive forms used, and it's not really part of standard English. So the singular form, you would say, how's everybody's pens? Oh, myself isn't working. Oh, yourselves isn't working. Ourselves isn't working. That pen or ourselves isn't working. Their selves pen isn't working. Their selves isn't working. So you don't have the noun on that. Then the plural form, and you hear this, you'll rarely see it wrote down, as ourselves and ourselves, right? So ourselves motor doesn't work, doesn't start, right? Oh, yourselves motor doesn't start. Their selves motor doesn't start, right? So how's your motor? Ourselves isn't starting. Yourselves isn't starting. Their selves isn't starting. So that's it used as a pronoun. So it's a wee bit footery, that one. And then, but that gets used, that's quite common. And this last set, you'll hear this awfully rarely, and folks say it sounds a wee bit childish, but the usage I'm going to say here is a kind of grammatical usage. And that's if you've got something that belongs to something that, say, you own. So this is my pen, and the lid belongs to the pen, right? So put the lid on your pen. Mine's isn't going on, right? So if the pen lid, the lid that belongs to the pen, you would say mine's isn't going on. Looking at somebody's pen, oh, yours isn't going on, right? Because it's broke. Yours isn't going on, which means that's me referring to the pen lid, the lid that belongs to the thing that belongs to me. Hers isn't working. His isn't working. Theirs isn't working. If you're working as a group and you're sharing a pen, yours isn't going on. The pen lid isn't going on. Yours isn't going on. Yours isn't going on if you're talking to another group. Theirs is if you're talking about another group. And then the really kind of rare one is where it's used reflexively. So that's myself is, right? Myself is, yourselves is, herself is. So if you're using that reflexive form, it becomes herself is, his selves is, their selves isn't working, their selves isn't going on their pen, ourselves isn't going on our pen, yourselves isn't going on your pen, their selves isn't going on their pen. So that's an awfully rare one. You rarely see it wrote down. I've never seen it wrote down, but you hear it a lot, like particularly myself when I'm working with groups. You hear folk using these words. Mindsies, myselfsies. So that's if you're referring to an object that you own and something that belongs to that object. That's a pronoun you use for that. So that's just in there for completeness. The next lot are pretty straightforward. We've got the dummy pronoun, and that's when you're talking about something like it's raining. And if I say to you, what is called, what is raining? And you would say, well, I don't know, it just everything. So that's how the dummy pronoun works. So that's in there. Then we've got the demonstrative pronouns, and that's the same as the demonstrative determiners that we looked at. So the determiners go into a noun, so it would be this pen, but the pronoun doesn't have a noun, so it would just be this, that, thone. So did you see thone? Did you see that? Did you see them? So that would be for those in English. Gies they pens, but one's them. So it's no them pens, it's just them. So it exists in that form. So you've got that, and then if you add a one or a yin, so this yin, that one, thone, using, that kind of thing, that's kind of behaving kind of like a pronoun you've got there as well. So that and all. So they're the demonstrative ones. So this set, the indefinite pronouns, are quite different for standard English, and there's a kind of bridging version that goes between the kind of more traditional Scots and the more Scots standard English. So we've got these. So in English that would be everybody, somebody, anybody, nobody, right? Or if we're talking about absolute, the most extreme difference between Scots and English, it would be everyone, someone, anyone, no one, right? So that one form doesn't exist in Scots. So it's the body form that exists in Scots when we're talking about that. Now, if we were to say, if one was to say that one wants to learn more about grammar, one ought to study some more of this, right? That form doesn't exist in Scots. The older way in Scots to say it was, if a buddy wanted to learn more about grammar, a buddy would study more, right? Something like that. So it was a buddy, that's what you would say. And you'll hear this in songs like, "Gin a buddy meets a buddy coming through their eye." That's what's going on there. So just, you can think that some one form doesn't exist. So in Scots, for the universal, you've got obody, obody, and then you've got the bridging one, everybody. And you've got othin, ohin, I would tend to say ohin, and then everything is the kind of bridging one there. Then you've got ahwar, or ahwar, or everywhere. So ahwar would tend to be in the north, ahwar rather than ahwar. And then everywhere is the kind of bridging version of that. Then there's the assertive form, so that's somebody or someday. It tends to be someday, that's the more contracted use. Something or something. Then somewhere or somewhere, I would tend to say somewhere in my dialect, somewhere. So that's the more kind of bridging one. Then you've got onybody or MD. I tend to say MD. Onything or entin is that kind of bridging form there. Onywhere, onywhere, or anywhere tends to be the kind of bridging form there. And then the negation is naebody or naebdy, the contracted form there. Nathan tends to be in the northeast. Nothing tends to be round about the rest of Scotland. And nowhere would be the bridging version of that. So that's indefinite pronouns. There is another version of that I'm not going to put in the video, but if you get it, you get it. I'll leave it at that. These three forms, something, anything and nothing, have got kind of older words. So that'd be socht, ocht and nocht. And you hear a related thing going on in the north of England where you've got sout, out and nout. You don't get now you don't get sout for now, right? So you didn't get socht for nocht. You didn't get ocht for nocht. So that's the forms there, and that's just spelled OCHT for them. So they're the kind of alternative words for them. We've got. Then you've got these quantifying pronouns, and they're similar to the post-determiners that we spoke about there, but they just don't have a noun follow them. So, what apple do you want? Either all day. So you're not saying either apple all day, you're just saying either all day. How many was there? Few, rather than few people. You just say few was there. Fewer was there than I expected. And then you've got the ilka form that isn't often used in speech. So you get many. Was there a lot there? Aye, many. You would say that. What one do you prefer? Neither. Right. So rather than saying neither fit a team, I would be behaving as a determiner there. You would just say neither. And this is a severals. So you would have that as how many showed up. Several or severals, meaning a wee drop. So severals, that absolutely gets used as a pronoun. Severals, that form there. Then the mass nouns. Do you want more or less soup? Less. Little. It's done in English mostly. Much was there. Much. Muckle was there, right? Muckle folk was there. Muckle goose was there, right? But you just use it without the noun. Muckle was there. And then for both the count nouns and the mass nouns, you've got inuch. Did many come? Aye, inuch. Enough. Enough folk came, right? Enough came. Mehr came, right? Maist came. So that's maist or them, maist people came. And here's the one that changes the spelling. So it'd be nae coos. How many coos was there? Or nane was there, right? Nae coos. Only. What one do you want? Oh, just use only. Any. Some. How much do you want? Oh, just some. Geese some. Or some all days. All days, right? You're wanting all. Sich or sick. So that would be so sick comes in there. So that's a kind of difference with that. Then you've got the reciprocal pronouns, and then that's ilk other or one another. So we give a pen to one another. Ilka man gied ilk other a pat in the back for a good job. That would be the kind of form of that we have there. So that's most of the pronouns. This one's a wee bit footery for me. I've highlighted this. So these are relative pronouns. So that would be something like that's the dog that bit me, right? That's the dog that bit me. So, or look out in the garden, they're the dog that bit me. So that's that bit me. So you're adding more information about the noun after that. Now in English, in standard English, there's all these different forms. So you would say that is the one which I would like. That is the man who I spoke to yesterday. That's the woman of whom I spoke. That's the man whose car broke down. And then you've got these whatsoever. Now in Scots, that gets used for all of these. So that's the one that I like. That's the man that spoke to us yesterday. That's the woman that I spoke to. I would put it in that form. Subject and object form doesn't distinguish there. That's the man that's car broke down. Generally, if a relative pronoun, it's pronounced that rather than that. So you can choose that pronunciation, whatever pronunciation you want. So for me, it's a wee bit footery in English. I just say that for everything because that's part of my speech. But whilk is the older Scots form. Wha, wham are all the older Scots forms. Whays, you'll see all these, but they've all fell out of use in spoken Scots, but you'll see them in rote Scots. And some folk like to write like that. Some folk just prefer to stick to that. So that's they're fed there for them that wants it. Right? There is food available for those who do not have food. They're fed there for them that wants it. Yeah, so that gets used for all these forms. And then we've got the question formation. So this is where you don't have a noun. So where earlier I says, whose pen is this? You would just say, whose is this? Whose is this? Whose is this? If you want to put that on. But whose is this? So you're no using a noun. So it's no whose pen's this. It's whose is this. And that's, so you've got the wha or who. My dialect is who, but this is a more traditional form. Who was that at the door? What was that at the door? What was that shutting the door? What is this? What? So that's what pen would you like? What would you like? So you're making a choice between them. In English, that would tend to be which. You would get that. In the older Scots form, it's whilk. And then you've got whitna. So whitna boy would be having their breakfast at 4 in the afternoon. So what kind of? So you've got that there. So that's your questions with these relative pronouns. So there isn't a noun that goes on to them. And then this is the impersonal thing. This is where I was saying a body. Again, a body meets a body coming through the eye. So that's the Scots form of one. If one were to meet someone coming through the eye in English. So a body. Get that. So some of these, the pronouns behave a wee bit different. So you've got this, just you away to your bed, right? So in English, you'd only get, don't you say that to me, in the negative form, but in Scots, you get it in the positive form. So just you away to your bed. So if you're giving an order, you can use it in that form. Believe you me, that phrase, believe you me. So that formation isn't really something that exists in standard English. I've spelled that wrong. And then another usage of pronouns in Scots is folk like to introduce the subject and the object before a sentence, and then they just use the pronouns. So you could say, see me, see Kelly, I think she's magic, right? So that's a and she. So when we're making a statement, we just use the pronouns. So rather than saying, I think Kelly's magic, you introduce, see me, see Kelly, I think she's magic. So that's just it's just a way of speaking, a kind of idiomatic way of speaking. So that's what pronouns. That's for them. They're a wee bit footery. But as I said, if you read through the whole note and just try and get your head around it, they're not too bad. So pronouns replace nouns. Determiners come afore nouns. So they actually, they come afore nouns. So they attach on a noun. But if you've not got a noun, you're using a pronoun. Swap it in for one of these words. And what we'll finish off with here is looking at adjectives. So they're words The determiners tell you what for a group you're looking at. So it's the coup or a coup. What for a class of nouns. An adjective tells you more information. So you say the big coup. So big is the adjective there. The wee man, that wee man. So wee is the adjective there. So if a wee gander through these can add up. You can get loads of these. These are an open class words, so you get hundreds and hundreds of them. So it's a word that describes a noun. Determiner identifies what one you're talking about. A word describes it. They often come in pairs. So you get het and cold, or hot and cold, young and old, big and wee, long and short, or far and near, muckle and toty or teensy. So you'll often get them kind of in pairs like that. So the long road, the short road, that kind of thing. He's a hot dinner or a cold dinner. The young man, the old man. Most of them are not paired. They'll give you, they just attach. There are no opposites on it. So that was a braw dinner. That's an ill wind that blows, an ill wind that blows. So dinner is a noun, braw is a fid, braw is the adjective. Blithe and bonny, she's a blithe lassie. Oh, he's a bonny boy. Mocket, perjink. So, oh, that's a mocket jacket you've got. Oh, that's a perjink jacket, very nice. Footery, that's a footery idea that I've just tried to explain to you all. But it's not a muckle idea, it's just wee words that we're looking at. So, muckle would be paired, but aye. So most of them are not paired. And there's thousands and thousands of Scots words, so I'll leave you to explore them yourself. Some of them, some of the examples as they'll take the maist, if you're talking about a kind of direction or something. So the inmaist or the innermaist, pen or the innermaist thing, the outmaist, so the thing that's furthest away, the left maist, the richtmaist or rightmaist. The hindmaist is the thing at the back, the foremaist or furretmaist would be the thing at the front. The benmaist, so that's the thing closer to the inside, and the buttmaist, but I've never heard that used, would be the maist outside thing. You've got this form rife, which means to be fuller, so cold rife would be I'm full of coldness. Walk rife would mean you're full of wakefulness. Cold rife and walk rife, so you'll hear these in Scots. One of the most common ones is the IE ending, so bonny, doty, drouthy, I'm gay drouthy. I'll hear a wee sup of my pint of water there, a glass of water. Manky, glatty, cheery, happy. So there's a load of other endings that you'll find in adjectives, and they have a kind of regularity to them. These are some that you'll see in Scots. One of the most common in Scots you'll see is this IT ending. So it's kind of related to the verb endings. We'll have a wee look at that in the past tense. But most of the time, you'll just hear it as an adjective. So you've got champit totties, that's a crabbit woman. Oh, I'm feeling wabbit. So adjectives don't need to take a noun directly after them. So I'm feeling wabbit. They are dighted. That's clarted. Or you can say it's a clarted shoes, mocket shoes, that kind of thing. So that's at end, and you'll find it in hundreds and hundreds of words. So that's quite an important one, and you'll find it in kind of combined phrases for adjectives. I know. So lang nebbit, humphy backet. So you'll find loads and loads of them. And then the last kind of end and the last kind of regular thing is this. They're intensifiers, they're called. So the wee man, the weeer man, the weeest man, right? The the muckle hill, the muckler hill, the mucklest hill. So that's the biggest hill going there. Sometimes this is irregular, so you get, oh, that's good, that's better, that's best, right? So that's a good motor, that's a better motor, that's the best motor. And then bad, war, and worst. So that's a bad motor, that's a war motor, that's a worse motor there. So that's the intensifiers. But often you use mair and maist. So you'll see for glad, oh, I'm glad, oh, I'm mair glad, I'm maist glad to be here. Mair, and maist. And sometimes in Scottish you'll get them joining together, so you get the endings along with these. So you'll say, oh, she's beautiful. Oh, she's mair beautifuler. Oh, he's the most beautifulest, right? So you get that in the spoken language. It's up to yourself whether you want to use that or no, but it's definitely part of the language there. So that's us with all the words that are associated with nouns. We've looked at the determiners that tell you what one for a group, that's getting more specific about what, indicating what one or how much. Then we've got the pronouns that replace nouns in sentences, so we don't have to keep saying Susie McGlumphy spoke to that man that gave her dug a fright. So you don't have to use these full phrases, you go for it. So the pronouns, and then we've had a wee gander at the adjectives here that give you more information about the noun that you're using. So that's it. Hopefully it's not been too foodary. Have a wee read through it all. And in the next video, we'll have a look at verbs and how they behave. And they are awfully important to how Scots works. So cheers and out. See you the next time.